I kind of divide music and fashion's marriage into two eras, before Nirvana and after Nirvana.
Interesting. One of the things I wonder about with you, given that you've become so successful, and given that there are all these young folks out there doing versions, albeit deficient versions of what you might have done, how do you stay in touch with the street? Is that something that you think about or worry about? I mean, you're still a young guy, but ultimately a well-off guy hanging around in New York is not going to have the same tentacles as the student who was hungry for what he was doing, right?
Right. So, great question. I worry about that all the time, and that's the main concern. So from the morning that I wake up, my wife usually tells me, how do you know this brand? This is for kids. This is for teenagers. I get myself educated with street brands, global street brands, all the time, to an extent that I got so involved that I was hired by Kanye West to work on his jewelry collection, because I became so interested in the way that these Yeezys are working and the way these seasons are coming. So I ended up collaborating and making his jewelry line, because I love the streetwear and the whole vibe of streetwear. I mean, it's very interesting because fashion was a holy grail of untouchable thing up there until grunge happened, and grunge happened through music. I mean, I kind of divide music and fashion's marriage into two eras, before Nirvana and after Nirvana.
Interesting.
And the reason was that we have one music video, Smells Like Teen Spirit, that all of a sudden, for the first time, people want to look like those guys. And what happened? What are those? Like, they're wearing all these oversized sweaters that are ripped and vintage and all of that. So without knowing, grunge had happened. So the grunge fashion had happened. A few months after that, Marc Jacobs released a collection of grunge, and he got fired because of it, which is probably the best thing that happened to him. And then he was hired as a menswear designer for Louis Vuitton, and his life changed. So grunge happened. That was a huge influence, and that was the first time that the street fashion came on top. So street fashion came on top, influenced the entire fashion, killed the haute coutures. People did not go to Chanel to order one-off items and Dior and all of that. Things changed from that point of the history in 1991. So I feel like street fashion became luxury. It's no longer the street fashion as we used to have it. And a great example for that is the most expensive pair of denims we could ever buy was like $50, $60. But all of a sudden we became okay with paying $700 for a unique pair of denims. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
Torn too, pre-torn.
Pre-torn. And who made this okay for us? Like, what kind of a cultural influence happened? And that's beautiful, because the street fashion came on top.